Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Got Friday reads for you today. I I haven't done the Friday reads in a couple of weeks, so I've bought 4 books and I've read 5 books. So this might be quite a long one. I'm also experimenting with this little microphone thing that I bought a couple of months ago, and the first time I tried to use it, I just move around too much, and it was all sort of robby noise. So. Um, let's see how that goes. And I might have to edit loads of audio out. Let's kick off with what I bought then, because I've actually already read one of the ones I've bought in a change of character for me. I'm battling against read what you own, not reading what I own. Someone's got to buy all these books, haven't they? Everyone else is off the book buying. This is actually one that was in my World of Books pre-Christmas haul, but came separately for some reason. And I I felt like I considered Tolstoy one of my favourite ever authors. I've read Anna Karenina like 4 or 5 times, and I'm embarking on a second read through of War and Peace this year, hopefully. Um, but I've only read one of his books, and I can't even remember what it's called. It's a very short one, so I thought I'd read one of his slightly more chunky ones, Resurrection. And I don't know if I've ever heard anyone talking about this. So if you've read this book, please let me know what you thought of it in the comments. It seems to be about a prostitute accused of murder and a prince who serves on the jury at her trial, and he recognizes her as a woman he once loved. Sounds very interesting, and I can't imagine Tolstoy writing anything bad. He's such a great writer to read, and very easy to read as well. So we'll see how that goes. Don't know who the translator of this is. Oh, it's Rosemary Edmonds, my favourite. So that's a bonus. The next one I bought was quite a few of these are well, the next 3 are all from BookTube recommendations. So this is Goodnight, Mr. Tom. So this was recommended to me by Chatty, the Mad Chatter, on my best books of 2023, and she said this sounds a bit like Foster, and it does. It's a young boy is evacuated to the country as Britain stands on the brink of World War II, and he's sort of a sad and deprived child who begins to flourish under the care of old Tom Oakley. So, yeah, kind of a similar theme to Foster, but evacuation. I don't think I've ever read any other evacuation books apart from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so sounds fun. And this was also on Gem of Books, favourite books of 2023, so that's 2 booktubers recommending it, so how can it go wrong? The next book always appears on lots of people's end of years, and that is Sarah Waters' The Night Watch. And I've been wanting to read the Sarah Waters because she just seems to pop up on BookTube so often, and everyone seems to love her. So this one sounds like one that everyone gets along with as well. I don't. I've heard this book is in reverse, so it goes backwards in time. That doesn't sound that appealing to me, but I'm interested to see how it works because that sounds like the hardest way to do a timeline shift. So yeah, it sounds interesting. And I think this was Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading's #1 book of the year. So yeah, lots of BookG recommendations for this one. And the last one I bought was in Book Olive's favourite non-fiction, but not non-fiction, fiction books of the year, and that is Beth O'Leary's The Flatshare, and I've already read this, so I will talk about it in a minute. First, I'm going to talk about the last book I read of 2023, and that was to hit 2 events at once. It was my old tatty version of John Wyndham's The Day of the Triffids. This was for Remember December because I've read it loads of times before, but I don't think I've read it in about 10 years. And it was also for Winter of Wyndham, which is Gareth from Book Songs and Enough and Magic's event of reading John Wyndham books. And last year I read The Chrysalids and Chalky, and I've read The Midwich Cuckoos and some of his short stories and stuff as well before, and The Trouble with Lichen. I've always thought sort of the Chrysalids and Midwich Cuckoos are probably my favourite, and this slightly below it. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I still don't know if it is or not, because there's so much nostalgia associated with this book for me, because I used to read it all the time when I was a teenager. You can tell this has absolutely ruined this version, and this is from my secondary school that my big brother had stolen, and he's written loads of dirty words in it as well, and he's drawn sort of naughty things on the pictures, and helpfully he's also torn out the last page. So that's what my brother was up to at school, and I always forget he's torn out the last page whenever I read it, and then I have to get it out on ebook. So yeah, I mean, I love this book. It's I do find it the coziest of Wyndham's cozy catastrophes. There's something quite nice about the world being destroyed, and everyone's blinded by an event in the sky, galactic event. Galactic, probably not the word. Meteor shower or something, and the main chap's in hospital with wraps around his eyes because he's been stung by a Triffid, which are these weird plants that appeared many years before, and they don't really know how. They think it might have been genetic experimentation that's got out of hand. And the main character is a Triffids expert. He works with Triffids, and he's got a bit of a resistance to them. And it's the day of the Triffids because they can move around quite slowly, and they seem to like hitting people and stinging them in the face and stuff. But and it could be fatal. And it's the day of the Triffids because once everyone's blinded by this cosmic event, they're all of a sudden free to roam, free to attack, and people can't see them coming. It's just a very slow invasion. But yeah, very interesting book, and I just love it's quite, you can whiz through it in a couple of sittings, and it's dark but at the same time quite nice and cozy. Yeah, so that's what I read at the end of 2023. 2024, I've gone very varied in my reading. So the first book I read was one that I've seen a couple of people on BookTube mention this author and praise him, and that's S.A. Cosby, and it's his book All the Sinners Bleed, which was released in 2023. And this is kind of a gritty, dark murder mystery. There's a serial killer. So my normal murder mysteries are normally sort of Miss Marple, old women, tea cozies, someone's fallen down in the village dead. So this is a bit out of my usual wheelhouse. It follows a black sheriff in the South in America, and he's dealing with loads of things. Like, he used to be FBI, but he's come back to help his father, who's been ill. He's broken up, or he's struggling in his relationship. He's sort of haunted by an ex-relationship from when he was in the FBI, and he's haunted by the death of his partner on a job in the FBI. So this book was trying to do quite a lot at one time, because in his hometown, all of a sudden, there's a school shooting where a teacher gets shot, and then the student is shot by the police, and he has to deal with it's white. It's a white police shooting a black kid, and he has to deal with that, and he doesn't know whether they reacted too quickly. Then it's revealed that this teacher and student were involved in some very dark things. So he's investigating serial killer, dealing with racism, all this other stuff, and also there's an aspect that Cosby tries to do, which is a bit like Stephen King's It, where the town itself is in a cycle of violence or whatever that has occurred, but it doesn't really go through with it. He sort of mentions it a few times and doesn't really work. That said, I did really enjoy this book. I think he's a decent enough writer, Cosby. He's not amazing on the page, but he's written this so it's a page turner. It's very sort of thrilling, and you do back the character. The main character, this cop, you do really grow to like, and his sort of family. So yeah, I did enjoy this. I would definitely read more S.A. Cosby. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I'm not going to talk too much about, because I'm going to talk about it in my Hugo and Nebula Award series, because this one, the Hugo, the Nebula, and the Locus Award, I didn't realise until this point as well that it's for fantasy as well, because the previous books have all had some sort of science fiction element to them, but this is pretty much pure fantasy, high fantasy. And this is Paladin of Souls by Lois McMaster Bujold, and it's the second in her book series. I think it's called World of the Five Gods or something like that. I didn't read the first one, which is probably a mistake, because these are quite character-driven books, and I've obviously missed the introduction to the character and the world. But the book does enough to make up for that. So this is sort of kind of high chivalric fantasy in a medieval setting, and the fantasy element of it is quite small, which I always really like. I don't like there to be a hugely complicated magic system. The fantasy element is like the Greek gods. So there's 5 gods. It's like a mother, a father, son, a daughter, and a bastard child. And this is mostly about the bastard. And they all have different characteristics and things. And the gods are real, and they're kind of like a soap opera, like the Greek gods, where the gods are less serious than the people in the book. But I love this. I love her writing. I think she's funny, and just a very good fantasy writer. I've read some of her science fiction before, and I really liked it. So I really want to go back and read the first book in this series, and then carry on with this. It's sort of about a mad woman. She was mad in the first book, and now she's not mad, and she just wants to. She's 40 years old and just wants to go out on a quest, because her life has just been stuck in castles, being sort of second best sort of thing. But yeah, I love fantasy about older characters as well. So this is sort of like a midlife crisis, sort of go on a quest, and she ends up at this other castle and then there's a big drama happening there. But yeah, I'm not going to go into too many details because I'm going to talk it in another video. But I highly recommend her writing, and I want to go back and read all of this series now. Next, I read the one from my book haul, the Flatshare, Beth O'Leary. So I've not super read a lot of romance. I read the romances I read tend to be Regency or Victorian, sort of Georgette Heyer or Jane Austen, or Victorian novels. I've not read many modern-ish romances, and I feel like I should change that because I did really love this. This is a real page turner. I read this in like 2 days, and it's quite big, but there's not a lot of words on the page because it's it's not a letter book, but it's a post-it note book. So the the premise of this book is this woman living in London is going for a breakup, and she's been living in her ex-boyfriend's flat, and she finds this new flat, but she owes her ex-boyfriend loads of money, so she wants to find somewhere ridiculously cheap. And the idea of this new flat is the guy who lives there, he works night shifts in a hospital, and uh, he he only uses the flat in the daytime, and he's out all night. So she is going to take the bed in at night time, and when she's out at work, he will sleep, and they will never meet. So it's kind of a ridiculous thing, but if you want to get a flat in London for 350 quid a month, which is what she's paying, you basically have to do this. And I wouldn't be surprised if people do start doing this, because the house prices in London are absolutely ludicrous. I related to this quite a lot as well because she's talking. She's actually on the tube. She wrote this on the tube line that I get to work every day, and the character gets the same tube line as me as well. And she works in publishing, which I sort of do as well. Uh, yeah, so they communicate through post-it notes on the fridge and everywhere. And she's got this sort of nutty ex-boyfriend who's an aspect in it, and the guy Leon is he's sort of the nurse at the hospital that sleeps in the day. He has a problem where his brother's been wrongfully jailed. So there's these side plots, but the main plot is that through the post-it notes and stuff, um, it's a romance. They slowly fall in love, and at the start, she's got this issue with the ex-boyfriend, and Leon's in a relationship. So just because it's a romance, that there's those are both going to be resolved. What I really liked about this book is I think Beth is really funny. I really get her sense of humour, and the romance is brilliantly done, and it's kind of funny because they don't meet till like halfway through the book. So it's not very quirky, but it really worked for me. I gave it 5 stars. Yeah. And the last book I read was just a little novella, and that was Becky Chambers' A Psalm for the Wild Bill, and I just finished that this morning, and it's about 130 pages or something. And it's the first Becky Chambers book I've read that's not in the Wayfarer series. I don't think she's written a lot that aren't in the Wayfarer series I know of. This is in her Monk and Robot series, which there's only 2 books so far. This is an odd little book because I guess a lot of Becky Chambers almost doesn't matter that they're science fiction, and this one especially, it's about a tea monk in the future, or maybe in a different world, and it's set hundreds of years after a robot awakening, where robots have become conscious, and bless Chambers in this world. The humans, when they realised that the robots had become awakened, freed them from their work and just rebuilt everything so the robots didn't have to do work anymore, and they could go into the wild and be free. And no one's seen a robot for 200 years or whatever. which definitely wouldn't happen in real life, would it? If we found out the robots are computers and could think and feel, we would not be releasing them, not straight away anyway. But yeah, so this is about a tea monk who is someone who gives people cups of tea and listens to their problems a bit, and he bikes around. Actually, I say he, but it's this is a non-gender person, so it's the they them all the way through the book, and so is the robots. Robots don't have genders. So they bike from different village to village and give people tea and listen to their problems, and then they feel a bit dissatisfied with their life and they want to go into the wilder and wilder places and see some things that other humans aren't seeing. And they come into contact with a robot who comes just strolling in while, um, well, I won't give any spoilers, just come strolling in. And then the rest of the book is them sort of on a walk and just talking. So they just talk about sort of their problems and how and what it's like to be a robot and what it's like to be a human. And it's very sort of simple, but almost it reminded me a bit of Before Sunset, the film with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, where they're just walking through the city talking about their lives. It's very sort of relaxing, but I find that all Becky Chambers books have uh, quite a lot of depth to them as well, and they have quite some interesting sci-fi concepts just under the surface. But this one was just quite philosophical, really, rather than science fictiony. Do you think the robots in it also have chosen to become mortal in a way because um, they will, when they fall apart, they don't fix themselves. They rebuild once they die. They get rebuilt. They rebuild a new robot out of everyone's parts. I think that's a bit unusual as well, but I did really like it, and I've liked every Becky Chambers book I've read, so I'll probably seek out the next one as well. I know a lot of people, this is probably their favourite Becky Chambers, so it's probably a good one to start with as well, if you've never read her. And there's not that many good science fiction writers around at the moment, so definitely check out Becky Chambers. Right, BookTube, that's my Friday reads. Quite a long one for me. Let me know if you've read any of these books, especially the ones I've just bought but haven't read. Like Good Night, Mr. Tom, and The Night Watch. And if you've read any other Beth O'Leary books or any Lois McMaster Bujold, let me know. Have a good one, BookTube.